56. Collectively, we are the Mind of Men. Don't forget to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and for all my YouTubers, don't forget to like and subscribe. And welcome to another Black Friday. Okay, unless you've been living under a rock, everybody know America's past history regarding black folks. Since the first slave ship arrived in Virginia in August of 1619, black folks have been fighting for equality. And no matter how things may appear today, the fight continues. The generational trauma caused by white folks make it nearly impossible for them to make amends. Bottom line, black folks are sensitive and easily triggered. Although every individual should be evaluated by their own merits, the bare naked truth is we can't forget about how white folks lied, stole, lynched, and oppressed our ancestors, not to mention what they did to the Indians. So, here's a rhetorical question. How can white folks apologize and make amends with black folks? Now, some black folks would say there's nothing that they can say or do to rectify the issue. However, with that mindset, the cycle will continue. Black folks' trauma is so deeply rooted that we're still affected by what our ancestors endured over 4 centuries ago. So fellas, again, I propose a question, and this time it's not rhetorical. How can white folks apologize and make amends with black folks?
Gonna have to have some money. Ain't gonna be thank you, ain't gonna do. I mean, I'm sorry it's not gonna cut it. Sorry it's not gonna fix that situation, because it's been over 400 years and you ain't said you were sorry yet. You truly don't give a damn. You've done genocide and everything against us. You've given us more problems than anything that we really need. It's been more genocide, and you've been holding us down, and you don't want us to have shit. So you can't say nothing. You have to come on with some money, and a lot of it.
Okay.
I have to agree with Slash, man. You mentioned earlier how some folks think that there's really nothing that can be said or done, and I'm kind of under that umbrella. But when Slash said, if they did do anything, it would definitely have to be monetary that was involved, in the apology process.
Okay.
So y'all about to be upset with me. And this is just how I think. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. How the young folks say it. Are you talking about the current white folks now? Right now, the ones that are this present day.
Well,
you're asking us. You're asking them to apologize.
Some
to
of them think
us.
just like the ones that treat that.
Right now, the same people.
I will say this: for the ones that still think that has the slave mentality, yes. But there's a lot of white folks that are really on our side and really rooting for us.
But they haven't gave us nothing either.
What? They don't owe us anything. They didn't put us
they
in.
do.
These current white people did not put us in slavery.
So
you cannot blame them
Okay.
for what their forefathers and mothers
So
did.
if
You
that's
can't.
the case, and if that's the case, peep this. It was our ancestors they did it to. So we just gonna forget about it altogether?
I didn't say forget about it, but they don't owe us an apology.
We don't want an apology. We want some money.
That's what he opened up.
We don't want no apology.
He asked, how can they say?
I asked, I didn't, so check it out. I asked, how can white folks apologize and make amends with black folks? Now, an apology doesn't necessarily have to mean verbal. So again, how can white folks apologize and make amends with black folks? Now, Slash said money.
Yeah, because we don't want an apology. Sorry, ain't gonna do it. You could say that 100 million times, and we still not gonna get nothing out of that. I still don't trust you.
Fred G, I got a question. Your favorite guy, he died young. What was his name? We used him in Black Fact. We can't take back. He was the because he killed a couple of white slave owners. I can't remember his name.
You say my favorite
Your
guy?
one of your favorite guys. You used him as a black fact. I think he was 33 when he died. When they killed him. God, what was his name?
You talking about Nat Turner?
Nat Turner. Say if Nat Turner was one of your ancestors. Just use it. He's one of your ancestors. And he killed maybe someone you worked with. Great-grandfather or great-great-great-grandfather. Does that person that currently, that was his great-great-great-grandfather, would they owe you an apology because of something Nat Turner did?
Okay, so I understand your question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to answer your question a little bit further down the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to actually give you a solution.
Okay.
So, but that's a good question.
Okay.
But I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer that further down the show.
Right.
So, with that being said, K Money, you agree with Slash that, hey, you got to give us some money.
Yeah, it's got to be
Ain't no
monetary.
apology.
Is there anything else other than or in addition to money?
I don't want nothing you got to give me besides the money. I buy what I want.
It's the people, the respect. The respect.
They not gonna give you no land.
The respect. That's bigger than anything. I want to be treated equally, no matter what my race is.
Nah,
Black, green, purple, orange, it doesn't matter.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's respect is one. I agree. That's big.
That's big.
Because what that does is it changes everything from what it used to be to respect factor right now, and we ain't got to go back here. But they without the respect, we keep going back.
Exactly, because they can easily give you the money and be like, oh, that nigger ain't going to do nothing but spend it on rims. There's no respect there.
Yeah, but how much money are you giving me? Is the question.
You still getting them rims? No, just
If you done gave me 3-4 million, I might buy some rims.
Bro, I feel like respect would be very difficult to obtain.
Yeah.
The money, regardless of how they thought what we did with the money when it's given to us, that would help. That would bandage, the wound some. It's not like nowadays the shit that's being done. It's almost as if they're throwing salt on the wound. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they would definitely have to do something. Monetary wouldn't fix it, but again, it would just help deal with it more so than how we're now. We just basically got to deal with it, regardless of not being given anything. We have to deal with it. So to give us some money, yeah, it'd be a lot easier to deal with the disrespect that we're dealing with now, based on what we've dealt with over the last 400 years.
Okay, so what I got out of that was money and respect.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, I really can't think of anything else, man, that's obtainable. Like I said, I don't feel respect would be obtained, but I do put that on my list as well.
Okay, so with that being said, I had a conversation with an individual a few days ago, and this individual is a listener of our show. And me and this individual, we discuss a lot when it comes to our shows. Sometimes the individual that listens, he enjoy the shows, and sometimes that individual be like, man, y'all left a lot of meat on the bone. Y'all didn't go deeper. It didn't do it for me today. So with that being said, me and this individual had a discussion about one of our Black Friday shows. It was episode 107. And that particular episode was called It's Our Money, We Want It Now. And he had an interesting point of view. Now, without getting into details about our conversation, he said, blacks need a seat at the table. And so I'm like, you took the words right out of my mouth. I do think that we need a seat at the table. Now, that prompts me to ask y'all, in y'all own words, what does it mean to you to have a seat at the table? And that's number one. It's a two-part question. And what do black folks have to do to get a seat at the table? So in your own words, what does seat at the table mean?
A seat at the table, to me, means that we respect you enough to listen to what you got to say. And how do we get to being that person
How do we get that seat at the table?
by continuing to have integrity and respect for those that you work with, and how you are able to obtain whatever you're obtaining, you doing it with integrity.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with you, Slash. And I would add to that basically a seat at the table means the people that are already there, I get to join it, and I will be heard just as everyone else on that table is being heard. It'll be even split,
Right.
and I'll be you listen to me, and I will listen to you, and we will work
in
together.
harmony.
Yeah, work in harmony.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what it means, but if I had to give it a guess, I would think kind of on the same lines as you fellas, that our opinions would be heard.
Okay. Now, the main thing that I'm hearing in today's conversation is monetary, is money. We need some bread. So that puts us in line with the word reparation.
Right.
So we know, I'm assuming we all know what reparation is, but for those who don't know, that's reparation. The definition for that is to make amends by paying money to or otherwise help those who have been wronged. That's the definition of reparation. Now, me personally, here's what I believe. Reparation without changing laws doesn't level the playing field. Laws need to be changed in addition to receiving reparation. Now, with that being said, that's a part of the seat at the table.
Right.
Now, with that being said, let me ask y'all a question. How many people y'all think live in the United States? Slash.
Man, you got me, man. I'm gonna say in the United States,
Just the United States. How many people live in the United States? Just throw a number out there.
15 million.
Okay. Comedian 96.
I'm gonna say 1.8 billion.
Okay. K Money.
I'm going to say 345 million.
Okay, there's approximately 347 million people
What? Okay.
in the United States.
Google
My bad.
good in the motherfucker, boy. Google
I
that
know
son of a
it.
bitch.
Now,
I'm like, that's 7.8 billion people on the planet. U.S. is the big. Okay, well, I was way off.
okay, K
I
Money.
was definitely-
Since you were close, how many of them you think are black?
You want a number?
Yeah, give me a number, real quick.
Out of that 342 billion, I'm going to say
75 million.
200 million.
200 million.
75 million.
75 million.
I'll say 100. Was it
Hurry up, hurry up,
347?
hurry up.
I'll say 124
Okay.
million.
Comedian 96, 124 million. Slash, you said 75 million. K Money, you said 200 million. Now, there are approximately 41 million African Americans
So I was just a little old.
in the United States.
Wow.
Now, not including other ethnic groups.
Color.
Not
tone.
not including other ethnic groups based in the U.S. population of 347 million people. Take a guess at the percentage black versus white. K Money. Black versus white. What's the percentage out of 347 million? What percentage of them is black versus white? Now I just gave you how
I'm
many
going to say
black.
17
17% black.
black.
Okay.
20% to 80%.
Okay. 20% black.
20% black, yes.
Okay, to 80% white.
Yeah.
Comedian 96. Hurry up, quick.
I'll say 8%.
8% black.
Yeah.
Okay. So the U.S. population for whites is 63.44%, and for blacks, 12.36%.
I'll say 8, 12. Okay.
Okay, so now with that being said, here's my thoughts. White people owe us an apology, but we don't owe them forgiveness. Now, I'm not talking about every white person in America. I'm talking about the lawmakers. Unfortunately, for black folks, most of the lawmakers are white. So I'm talking about Congress. The apology needs to come from Congress. Now, here's something a lot of black people don't know. In 2008, the House of Representatives passed a resolution apology for slavery and Jim Crow laws. The non-binding resolution was introduced by Steve Cohen, a white Democrat from Tennessee. The non-binding resolution passed on a voice vote. Now, the term non-binding resolution is not law. So in my opinion, the apology doesn't mean a hill of beans. Again, the apology needs to come from Congress. And it needs to be a binding resolution. A binding resolution holds legal weight. And both parties will have to comply. In this case, the parties are the American government and black people living in America. The binding resolution apology should be addressing the change in three branch of government, the three legislative branch of government, right? One is the legislation branch, which is the branch that actually makes the laws, which is in Congress. The executive branch, which is responsible for enforcing the laws passed by Congress, and the judicial branch, which is responsible for interpreting the laws and making sure that the laws are applied fairly and consistently. Now, in addition to the binding resolution apology I think that we should receive, that apology should also include $2 million in reparation payment.
I am with you now.
The payment should be given to every African American born in the U.S. from the 1900 to the current year, just in case there's a 125-year-old black person still living. Now, do y'all recall the number of black people I said who currently live in America?
Yeah, you said like 12%, which was about
Was it
40 something million?
Yeah, 41 million. Now, if the government gave every black person $2 million, that's a total of $82 million.
Small.
Now check this out. In 2024, how much money do y'all think the U.S. government distribute in foreign aid globally?
Well over that.
Oh, man,
well
over
over there. I
Give me a number.
I'ma
K-Money,
say
give me a number.
We had a show about this too.
I want to say
that
700 billion. I want to say something, not something like that. 700
Yeah, I'm
billion.
gonna say in that same range, anywhere from 300 to 700 billion dollars.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say $3 billion.
Okay. So, the U.S. gave $640 billion.
There it is. I knew it was
That's
close.
700
making it the largest aid donation in the world.
But you won't help with what your thing is.
Now, the countries
This Trump train.
that received the most U.S. foreign aids were Ukraine at $16.2 billion, Ethiopia at $2 billion, Jordan at $1.2 billion, Afghanistan at $1.2 billion, Somalia at $1.1 billion, Yemen at $1.1 billion, Congo at $982 million, Syria at $894.7 million, South Sudan at $891.1 million, and Nigeria at $886 million. So, the money for reparation can come from the foreign aid budget. Now, before I give my black facts, let me tie this all in a little bow, right? Before we can get a binding resolution apology that includes a reparation payment, we have to vote the right people in Congress, and their color doesn't matter. What matters is that they do the right thing by black folks. Currently, it appears that the Democratic Party is the only party pushing for reparation. Now, Congress has 535 voting members, 100 in the Senate, and 435 in the House. 13% of the members in the House are black. That's roughly about 56 people. And 3% of the members in Senate are black. That's roughly 3 people. Now, I know just because a person is black don't mean that they have the best interests of the black community. But let me also add, if a white person was born in around about the mid-60s, there's a good chance that white person may, keyword may, have been influenced by other white people who views blacks as inferior. If that's the case, and the white person is in a position of power, he or she way of thinking could be problematic for black folks. So with that being said, let me ask y'all, in Congress, what's the average age y'all think the person is in Congress?
Let's say about 65.
65. Now, y'all know I went through all of the members, the number of members with the voting. That's 535 votes. So you said the average age is 65?
I say 47.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in the 40 range, 40 to 50s.
Okay. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm not going to give you the average age. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to break something down for you. Mm-hmm. So you got, and keep in mind I said that if you were born in the mid-60s, there's a good chance your way of thinking is kind of, you think black folks are inferior to you. Mm-hmm. And these are the people, this is what we're talking about the seat at the table. This is what we're talking about, voting the right people in. This is what we're talking about, making laws and changing laws, right? And the way these people think, right? To get some different folks in there. So there are 24 members of Congress born between 1925 and 1945.
How many you say?
24.
24 of them?
So, yeah, so that means that they were born before blacks had civil rights and during the Jim Crow era.
Mm-hmm. And bathrooms were
And
probably
it's
still
500
segregated back then.
Back
That was
then,
time.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how many total in Congress now? 500 or something?
That you got 535
And
in
only
votes.
20 something.
24 were born between 1925 and 1945.
So and what that sounds like is we really got a good chance of the people understanding what we're saying if we can get to that table.
So check this out. That's 24, right? 230. Now, keep in mind, those 24, they were born before blacks had civil rights and during the Jim Crow era. Now, 233 members of Congress were born between 1946 and 1964.
How many?
And that still has segregated
233.
They still had segregated bathrooms.
It's almost 300. It's still,
That's
it's
almost,
gonna be hard.
Yeah.
So that means that
Yeah. We out of there
so
until
that means that those people were born before blacks had civil rights and during the Jim Crow era. Now, 196 members of Congress were born between 1965 and 1979. That's 196 of them.
They fresh, so still fresh on their mind.
I'm glad you said that.
God.
That means that they were born after the civil rights law were passed, but the Jim Crow residue is still present.
And they were trying to get into office to make a change to make it go back to the way it was.
yeah, either way it go, we out of there.
Now check this out. 84 members of Congress were born between 1980 and 1994.
And those are probably the ones that want to clean it up. And that's not, they ain't but 80.
Check this out. They were also born, a lot of them were born during the unfair drug laws targeting blacks. From 1980 to 1994, there are 84 members born between that time. Now, there's only one member of Congress that was born between 1995 and 2012. Now, that person was born in a time that America could no longer hide its unfair treatment of blacks. So with all of that being said,
It's only one person in there.
yeah. So with all of that being said, Slash, I heard you say, well, it's too late. You may recall a little earlier about the seat at the table. We got to vote the right people in. Let's always go back to voting. Always go back to voting. Always go back to voting. Always go back to voting to get the right people in. And that's what we have to do to get a seat at the table. And for those who think that just a seat at the table is enough, we have to vote. There are some that think that reparations is just enough, meaning that, okay, you give us X amount of dollars. Well, I told you where the money can come from. I gave you the amount that we all can receive, and I told you where you can get it from out the budget. And for those who think that not only do we need a seat at the table, we also need reparation, I tied it all up in a nice little bow for you. So with that being said, this brings me to my black fact. Today's black fact is the Tuskegee Syphilis Study. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study was a notorious clinical study conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service from 1932 to 1972. It involved nearly 400 African American men who were misled to believe that they were receiving free health care for bad blood, while in reality, they had syphilis, and they were not treated for it. Unbeknownst to them, they were a part of a study, and the researchers observed the disease progression without treatment. More than 100 men died as a result. Now, in 1997, Bill Clinton offered a presidential apology for the infamous Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Now, that's a black fact America wants us to forget. This concludes another dope episode of Black Friday. Tune in next week for Music Monday. Don't forget to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and for all my YouTubers, don't forget to like and subscribe.
So all them artificial man drugs.